G'day, how are you doing? Hopefully doing very well, keeping healthy and safe. On the side of the desk, we're doing pretty good here. Well, today we're gonna have a look into this HP Envy x360 2-in-1. It's a 13.3-inch, ultra thin, ultra light business laptop. Now, this is a 2-in-1, so it means you can pretty much flip its screen around, and if you've got a digital stylus, or in this case I've got here is the HP Tilt Pen, and you can even take notes or do some drawing. So it gives you a little bit extra functionality out of this computer here. Now, we are going to have a look at the temperatures and fan noise, as well as some of the features of this computer, and also we're going to test out the speakers as well too. And as always, I will be putting timestamps along this video so you can skip to a different section that you may be interested to save you time. Let's have a look at ports. Starting on the right hand side of the computer, we've got two Thunderbolt 4 ports. They are USB Type-Cs, and you can use both of them to charge the computer. Then we've got USB Type-A port, and it's running a lever system. It's great to see they're actually using this system, so you can still keep it thin and still maintain this, what I call a large port. And this is a USB Type-A port. It is USB 3.2 Gen 2. Looking on the left-hand side of the computer, we've got an audio jack, a micro SD card slot, and another USB Type-A port. Again, and on running a lever system, and it is still also USB 3.2 Gen 2. The Envy x360 2-in-1 comes with a 13.3-inch display. Now, there are actually three types of displays you can get. Two are IPS displays, which have the resolution of 2560 by 1600. And then there is the OLED display, which has a resolution of 2880 by 1800. So they all have an aspect ratio of 16 by 10 and have a maximum brightness of 400 nits. They also have a glossy display finish, and it is, of course, multi-touch, being a 2-in-1. The unit I tested out had an OLED display, and it had very vibrant colors, very crisp sharpness to all the text and images. And when I took out the Envy outdoors into direct sunlight, I still didn't have too much issues at all reading the display of consuming multimedia and also working on documents. Even with that glossy display having a lot of reflection, that 400 brightness was still just bright enough to actually go and pass through it. So I still found it was working quite nicely outdoors. When you're in shaded areas, you get an even better viewing experience. Measuring the color gamut coverage of the OLED display, it resulted with 94.5% sRGB coverage, 67.9% Adobe RGB coverage, and 70.2% DCI-P3 coverage. The OLED display did not exhibit any light leak around the edges. The Envy x360 2-in-1 comes with a 66 watt-hour battery, and I managed to get 12 hours and 43 minutes on the Modern Office battery life test in PC Mark 10, 2 hours and 54 minutes for gaming, and 11 hours and 25 minutes for the video playback for the Procon battery life test. Now, these are absolute great result for battery life for the Envy x360. Even with the OLED display, which normally traditionally runs a lot of battery, this Envy x360 2-in-1 still is able to maintain all-day battery life. Absolute fantastic battery life from this laptop. I want to make a quick mention about the power adapter. I haven't mentioned these days because it's all pretty standard, but HP has actually put some effort into this power adapter. They actually put some braided cables on it. It's really nice. It makes this power adapter feels very premium. Definitely love using it. The weight of the Envy x360 2-in-1 is 1.34 kilos, plus the 65 watt power adapter becomes a combined weight of 1.64 kilos that you might be carrying around with you. This is a recording from the 1440p webcam from the HP Envy x360 2-in-1. This is the video and audio unedited, so you can hear and see what the quality of the webcam is like. And normally I will hear and play with 720p webcams or even 1080p webcams, but never have I actually seen 1440p webcam on a laptop. It's great to see that HP have actually gone beyond what other manufacturers have done and given us absolute high resolution webcam. Now, as always, I am in an environment with two types of lights currently turned on. I've got my one strip light turned on and also the down lights in this room turned on for ambient. So I'm going to turn off my one strip light off. You'll see this adjust. I think this adjusts pretty quick here, very fast. And the two down lights in front of me is a bit far away, so there's not much light currently hitting on my face. This is what I consider a dark environment. If you're in an office environment, you should have much more light than what I'm currently at. And I'm going to turn my one strip light back on. You see this adjustment. I think this is just, again, very quick. And it also has very good colors and also white balance. I think it's been pretty good as well. And of course, if you're in a better light, you get better quality picture. Now, this 1440p webcam being high resolution, HP have actually done something a little bit beyond other people done, and actually included auto framing. Now, I actually use this in a 4K webcam that you'll probably see me use it in the live streaming, and they've actually incorporated it in this laptop here. And I'm going to turn that feature on so you can see what this actually does. So I'm going to turn it on right now, and you'll see this actually zoom into my face. Now, I'm going to move my head around, and you'll see it is actually tracking me. Now, the laptop itself is still stationary. I haven't moved the laptop, but it's actually is framing my face and actually moving to where it needs to be. It's actually making use of that high resolution 1440p. Absolutely fantastic feature. I love this feature there. I definitely love to hear what your thoughts of this webcam. Put a comment below. HP has also built in electronic shutter for privacy for the webcam. And to activate the electronic shutter, it's just a webcam button, which is located right next to the power button. And you'll see a physical shutter that actually goes over and covers the lens of the webcam. There are two speakers located on the bottom front of the laptop. When I measured the maximum volume of the speakers, it managed to measure in a peak of 84.5 decibels. I actually consider this on the medium quiet end of the spectrum compared to other laptops. You should still be okay hearing this laptop while doing a presentation at a cafe or outdoors. As for sound quality of the speakers, surprisingly, there's quite a lot of bass for a two-speaker system. It even attempts at the low frequency end of the bass, that oomphy part that you actually like to hear. And it is very well balanced between the lows, mids, and highs. It's actually quite clear, the actual sound, and it doesn't really distort that much when it's put at its maximum volume. They have quite nice acoustics and reverb, and truthfully, I think these speakers are really good as a benchmark for other laptops and manufacturers to actually try and achieve for a two-speaker system. So truthfully, these are quite fantastic speakers for a two-speaker system. Looking at the temperatures and fan noise, when I took my measurement, my ambient temperature in the room was 26 degrees Celsius and the ambient room noise was measured in at 35 decibels. Now, before we get started, I'll just give you a reference point. Your average hand is around about 34 degrees Celsius at this sort of temperature. When I put the computer on load, I found most of the heat is located on the top right of the keyboard, specifically around where the 0 key is. So I took a base measurement when the computer was idle, and the hottest area on the keyboard measured in a maximum of 35 degrees Celsius. And as for the fan noise, hit a maximum of 35 decibels, so practically silent. And the average internal core temperature was 40 degrees Celsius. Then I put 20% load on the computer. That's pretty much average use. So that's tasks like office productivity work, surfing the web, streaming videos. And the hottest area on the keyboard measured a maximum of 39 degrees Celsius. And as for the fan noise, it a maximum of 35 decibels. So still practically silent. And the average internal core temperature was 49 degrees Celsius. Then I put 50% load on the computer, and the hottest area on the keyboard measured a maximum of 43 degrees Celsius. And as for the fan noise, spun it all the way up to 43 decibels. And as for the average internal core temperature was about 62 degrees Celsius. Then I put 100% load on the computer, and the hottest area on the keyboard measured a maximum of 54 degrees Celsius. And as for the fan noise, it stayed at 43 decibels, and the average internal core temperature was 88 degrees Celsius. I also measured the bottom back cover of the computer while it's running 100% load, and the hottest area on the back cover measured a maximum of 47 degrees Celsius. So of course, it stayed at 43 decibels. I also measured the computer when it was running in tablet mode and putting about 20% load, and the hottest area on the display side while it's in tablet mode measured a maximum of 37 degrees Celsius. And as for the fan noise, it actually stayed at 35 decibels, so practically quiet still while it's actually in tablet mode. And the average internal core temperature was about 40 degrees Celsius. And then on the keyboard side, in tablet mode, it also a maximum of 37 degrees Celsius. Interesting enough, the HP Envy really only has two fan settings. It's pretty much practically quiet, or it spins its fan up, which goes up to a maximum of 43 decibels, which isn't really that loud and actually not that annoying at all. Let's have a look at the stability performance of the processor in the Envy x360 2-in-1. This one's configured with an i7-1250U processor. Look at Intel website, reports that the performance cores has a maximum turbo boost of 4.7 GHz and the efficiency cores has a maximum turbo boost of 3.5 GHz. Windows reports that this processor has a base clock speed of 1.1 GHz, so in this test we want to see at 1.1 GHz or above. Now I have this computer connected to mains power and I've got quite a lot of load on the processor, memory and also the storage, and this has been going for over 3 hours, and I do have this computer connected to mains power and set to best performance in the Windows power scheme. And I can see that the speed of the processor is ranging anywhere between 2.4 to about 2.7 gigahertz. So I'm going to average this around about 2.55 gigahertz. So that is above the 1.1 gigahertz at base clock speed. So it's doing pretty good there. And what I gotta say, for a laptop with this sort of thin and ultra thin size with the thermals, I think it's doing pretty well there. And looking at the internal core temperature, looking at, I would say, an average around about 89 or 90 degrees Celsius. So that's still got a bit of headroom to about 100 degrees Celsius. So we're still very safe in this sort of sense. Being an ultra thin and ultra lightweight laptop, it's not really designed or targeted for people to do prolonged duration tasks, but I think it's still holding extremely well for an ultra thin laptop. The build construction of this HP Envy x360 2-in-1 is actually very strong, and there's actually not much keyboard flex. It takes quite a bit of beating, and even with my twist and bend factor, it actually takes a lot. As you see, it doesn't actually twist or bend that much. Now I'm putting this way more open pressure than it would normally be, and of course it's being military tested. Now, I do want to make one mention about something I did notice, is that there are actually 4 little levered rubber bits, which helps with the impact of the display onto the keyboard. I like the actual idea of that. That's just great thinking there. And not only that, it also helps with this, if you accidentally press those, to even just find the corners of those, the delete and the escape key there. So I like that idea there. Now, as for the hinge test, I'm just gonna do the 1 finger test and pretty much just lifting 1 finger. Smooth there, it does grip a little bit. After that, it grips a little bit all the way to about 90 degrees. And after that, it's almost smooth sailing to the end. Of course, being 360, you can pretty much go all the way. Now, let's just go do the clamp and doing the clamp test here. And I can see that it's not letting go, so that's good. So it's actually got a very good hinge build construction here on each hinge. As for the keyboard, we've got very large size keys. We've got nice spacing in between the keys still, and also having a very nice quiet sounding keys. But they still maintain quite a lot of tactile feel once depressing, and actually has a good recoil back. And each individual keys has a smooth surface texture. And also they are backlit. There are 3 settings to it: off, high and low. The touchpad is a large touchpad for a 13-inch laptop. It is a mechanical touchpad, so it's hinged at the top, so you can depress it as you move your way towards the bottom of the touchpad. And it is multi-gesture and also has a glass-like silky smooth finish to the texture of the touchpad. And it is quite reactive and didn't have any issues registering my touch and depresses even with moist fingers. Here's the results of the benchmarks for the Envy x360 2-in-1. This one's configured with an i7-1250U processor with 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gig SSD. So here's the scores for Pass Mark, Citybench R23, PC Mark, 3D Mark, Crystal Disk Mark, Procon Office, Procon Photo Edit, Procon Video Edit, Fusion Photoshop, Fusion Lightroom, Fusion Premiere Pro, Fusion After Effects, Blender, Luxmark, Eugene Engine, and Spec View Pref. And some gaming benchmarks like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Far Cry 6, Cyberpunk 2077, and F1 2021. we'll just do a quick run through about this HP Tilt Pen. Now it's got 2 buttons, and then we've got a battery indicator on top. It is rechargeable. It takes about 45 minutes to recharge the battery in here, and you can pretty much open up the USB-C port here to recharge, and it lasts for about 30 days, it says. Now it does come boxed with this USB-C to USB-C, so you can connect this up to the HP laptop to actually charge this pen, and the tip is replaceable. You can just pull this out, and then they do include 2 extra replaceable tips, which is great to see. And again, we've got 2 nice things. And now we do the line jitter test. Now I am not a digital artist, so I'll do my best. I do have one palm on the display at the moment, so hopefully it's got palm rejection. And I am just doing my best to do some slow diagonal lines. I'll do some quick ones so you can have a look at. And I'm going to bring in a ruler. Now I'm going to not touch the display besides just the stylus. Let's see how that runs. Now I'm going to put one hand on the display. It's touching the display while using the stylus and the ruler. See how that goes. And I'll also do some horizontal lines. Do it slow. Whoa. And I'll actually put another hand in and see how it goes. As you can see, it's trying to do some palm rejection here, 2 hands. Now I'm going to do some spirals. Now I do have my palm on the display. See how that goes. I'll do my best to keep this even. I'll do another one to try and keep this as even as possible. I'm going to lift my palm off the display. The display and the stylus is pressure sensitive, so I'm going to do light pressure, hard pressure, light pressure, hard pressure, light pressure, hard pressure. And we'll do the parallax test to see how fast this is. There is a little bit of parallax, but not too bad at all. It's nothing I'll get annoyed by. It is actually quite quick, but there is a little parallax, but not that bad. And I'm just going to do some quick writing. My palm is on the display. Let's have a look at internals. First of all, we got the 66.5 watt-hour battery below here. It does take quite a bit of real estate in this particular laptop. And on the top left-hand corner is the battery connector. So it's a good idea to disconnect the battery if you're working or upgrading the computer, or if you're doing troubleshooting for the battery or power issues. This is the battery connector here to disconnect. Left-hand side is the storage. So that's the M.2 slot. As you see, it's actually got a heat shield here, and it can take in the 22.8 format for the SSD. Now, above the storage is the Wi-Fi Bluetooth module, and then on the right-hand side of this heat pipe is another, again, heat shield there. I'm just going to see if I can take that off so you can see that, is the soldered memory. So it is soldered to the system board, so you do need to make sure you have this correctly configured, as you can't upgrade the memory later on. And then we've got that single solid large heat pipe that goes to the fan. Overall, the HP Envy X360 2-in-1 is a great premium feeling laptop. Got good construction, and I love the port selection, especially the fact that HP have actually kept the USB Type-A port, which is very useful even in a very thin laptop, as most manufacturers are pretty much taking that port away. And we've got a very good keyboard and trackpad, and we've got a very nice, decent OLED display, and surprisingly, very good battery life. Even with the OLED display that traditionally runs a lot of power, but even with the OLED display, we're still getting an all-day battery life out of this HP Envy X360 2-in-1. And I do like the idea with the privacy shutter with this webcam, and we've got a decent webcam as well. And we also have very good temperatures and fan noise. So I hope you find this video informative or enjoyed it.
Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell.
And as always, imperfections in life makes it beautiful and interesting. And I'll see you next video.